we might make this like evil metal heavy sounding stuff, but we're just a bunch of good old boys from the South, from Tennessee, you know. So you know, we were definitely raised on like valuing friendships and family and stuff like that. And I mean, you know, over 20 years we've definitely butted heads quite a bit.
Alex, what a roller coaster this band is on. We're 9 albums in almost 20 years, I think. That's a brutal schedule. Do you have time to look back? Like, you know, do you ever thought all those years ago that this could happen and you would still be here at this schedule?
Yeah, it's you know, it's pretty wild to think that over, you know, that we've made it this far, quite honestly. You know, when we first started the band, we were just like any other band, just a bunch of guys playing local shows and local bands together, just having fun, making music. And, you know, we just, over 20 years, had some luck and made some good choices and some bad ones along the way. But we learned from those. And, you know, here we are now. There you go. Here we are now. And maybe we can even say here we are again in a way, or here we're back. I don't know if I'm phrasing this right, but we get, you know, you guys dusted off the old logo. Yeah. And that is more than just an aesthetical choice, right? Because we had the Valley. Kin was very much, I think, in, you know, continuation of that. Yeah. But now we're going back to This Is Exile days. You know, it's back to, you know, raw and early brutality. That it's a fair way to describe this? Yeah, I would agree with that. Was it, when did you guys, in this whole process of, you know, the Valley and Kin and then everything that's following that and all the hype, or, I mean, hype is a bad word, or gets a bad definition, I find, but with all the momentum, was that a conscious moment that the band was like, we went down a path, but we want to reset, like using, you know, this logo and bringing back some of those old early elements? That's a statement as a band, right? So was that a conscious conversation? Was there like a moment that you guys were like, you know what, this was good, but now we want to do something different? Yeah, definitely. It was really mostly inspired by Phill. When we got together, kind of deciding like which way we should take the next album, he was the one that kind of stepped up and was like, you know, I want to do something that kind of goes back to the roots. Yeah. And, you know, to me, it's like, it goes back to the roots, but it does kind of have its own newer, fresh sound too. It's like, it kind of takes like the spirit of the old sound and injects it with like more modern brutality, just like with like a heavier mix, a cleaner mix. The music itself like hits harder overall to me than the older stuff. So like, you know, yeah, it does go back to the roots inspiration wise, but to me it's like a whole nother beast, you know. And you know, it, you know, largely was inspired by Phill. Just you know, I think over the Valley and Kin, he touched on those emotional parts of his life that he needed to, and he was ready to kind of move on from that and do something different. So, you know, he was like, I'm not really worried about singing on this next one. He's like, you know, I'm not saying I'll never do it again. He's like, but on this next album, I just really want to go pure brutality, just try to make the heaviest record we can. And, you know, I think we set out and did what we set out to do. Should we then also, when you're thinking about all the live shows you guys are going to be playing, I mean, you're going to be super busy, you know, once this album comes out. But should we then also see, you know, you've got 9 albums now. That's a lot of songs. That's a lot of, like, a lot of people come to your shows with a long wish list of things that they want to hear. You've got your classics now, right? Like proper classics. It's hard to make a set list. I bet. You know, it's like we want to try to include as much as we can, but I mean, it's impossible to include everything at this point. So there's people that, oh, you never play anything off New Era. Blah, blah. It's like, yeah, because we're always trying to play stuff that's like, you know, we want to play the old stuff that people like to, you know, so that they can come back and reminisce and have that nostalgia of hearing those old songs. But we also want to play the newer stuff to promote the newer music as well. So it's just like finding that balance of trying to include as much of everything as we can.
Yeah. Okay. So can we, given this is a concept album, is there a future where we get to get that special show where you guys play the whole album in the sequence? I mean, it might also always be weird to play like just one or two songs from a concept album, as you know that like it's a bigger story, or put them in different order, where it's like, well, this hasn't really happened yet in the story, but we have to do it already. Is there? Because I mean, if I look at this album, like a Visceral Wretch and Abysmal Gospel, but then definitely also like Hate Cult Ritual, those are all songs that I think will do really well in a live setting, like especially Hate Cult Ritual. You can do a ton of like extended crowd participation work in some of those sections of those songs.
For sure.
I'd love to see, and I've seen you play live before, so I've had my fill of the classics maybe, but can we keep our fingers crossed to see a ton of new stuff in the set going forward, but maybe at one point see you guys play this whole album?
Yeah, I mean, I think playing the album in full is definitely something that we'll end up doing eventually. We did that with our album Valley in 2023 because we weren't able to, because of the pandemic, we never got to do like a proper headliner for it. So once we were back to playing shows after post-pandemic, we thought, hey, let's give the people the Valley headliner because we didn't get to do that. So
yeah,
it went over really well, like tons of sold out shows. It was probably the best headliner we've ever done. And it was after the pandemic, which we didn't really have much going on during that either. So for all those people to still care about that record and want to come out and see it, like it meant a lot to us, So, and we had a lot of fun playing the album front to back. So I definitely think Hymns would be another fun one to do front to back as well. So on this tour we're about to do, the Hymns and Dissonance tour in the spring, we're going to play as much new stuff as we can. It won't be the album front to back, but there's going to be probably about four new songs in the set. So
okay, well, I'll keep my fingers crossed that some of those songs that I mentioned might make that set list, but we'll have to wait and see. Yeah. We as you say, like this tour that's going to happen, it's a pretty epic North American tour that you guys have planned. Now, as we're recording this, there are some tensions between the US and Canada, but nevertheless, on March 25th, we expect you to play in Toronto, my hometown here.
I hope they still let us in.
Well, yeah. Hey, you guys are always welcome. Whether you want to go back is a different.
Hope so, yeah.
But that's awesome. But we've got first this crazy tour, but I have a feeling that we're going to see a lot more announcements for you this year. We're going to see you in the summer play festivals. There's going to be more tours in the second half of the year.
Yeah, definitely. We have a European festival tour in June, so we're excited to get back over there and play some of those big festivals over there with new music. And then in the fall of this year, we're going to do another U.S. Hymns and Dissonance tour, so with like a whole new lineup and different markets and stuff. So.
For a band that has been so efficiently productive, let's say it, because you've had an album almost every other year, and you are a band that plays a lot. So you guys are forced to work and live together a lot of time. For a band with this tenure, you've got a insanely solid lineup. That many bands that make it 20 years will have seen many more band members than Whitechapel has. What's your take on why that has worked for you guys?
Honestly, I feel like a lot of that, what has contributed to that is just like where we're from and how we're raised. I mean, like we might make this like evil metal heavy sounding stuff, but we're just a bunch of good old boys from the South, from Tennessee, so we were definitely raised on like valuing friendships and family and stuff like that. And I mean, over 20 years we've definitely butted heads quite a bit.
For sure. Yeah,
it's nothing to the point where like anyone's ever like threatened to quit or something like that. Like we've always just kind of had the same mindset moving forward through all of this ever since the beginning, really, like even when we had to decide, like, all right, well, let's all quit our jobs so we can go on tour and stuff, like everyone was down to do it, so we all kind of had the same vision from the start. And, I'm definitely thankful for that. Cause like you said, there's a lot of bands that, they don't hold up that well. So.
Yeah. Yeah. So now that you say, like, at the end of the day, we're just friends and we care about each other. So how is it for you? You said earlier, like with this album, we kind of went away from like the very, very personal stories that were being told on the previous two albums. Some of those songs were heartbreaking, right? If you read the lyrics, when you're playing these songs live over and over again, like, does it register for you that this might be PTSD inducing for some of the band members? Like, it's one thing to pour out your emotions about your darkest personal history, but then having to perform that over and over again, it could be a mentally brutal challenge. Does that sink in for everybody else in the band?
I think so. We've always approached playing those songs from like a place of respect, because that's right. Phill opened up, his life to not only us, but to, the other fans that, love Whitechapel and love his work.
Right.
And, like I said, it's like, we've always just wanted to present it the way it needed to be presented. Like we act very serious on stage. It's not, you don't come to a Whitechapel show expecting like silly banter and stuff like that. Even Phill is just like very, he takes a lot of influence from Yins from Meshuggah. Like, he's not cutting up on stage. He's like, we're there to play metal and it's, serious business. So, I think just the nature of the band as a whole helps how we did respect to, helping Phill tell the story of what he did.
Yeah. Well, you're there for each other, and you'll have to continue to be there for each other. You tell a whole set of new gruesome stories, but maybe, hopefully, slightly less personal or autobiographical this time, because there's some nasty stuff going on in this album. But
I think Phill had fun, just letting loose and not having to write about something so serious. I mean, it's like, well, the material is serious, but it's all fiction, So
right, that's what I mean.
It's him just like writing a fictional story versus like having to tell like a real part of his life. And I think that kind of like took some of the weight off his shoulders too. He was able to just like kind of cut back and see how brutal he could actually be versus like trying to like do justice to the story he was telling.
Yeah. No, for sure. Well, we can all, come to your show and see you guys be all serious on stage while you present us with this wall of brutality. And we'll keep our fingers crossed for a lot of cool new songs while you come. And we'll make sure that no matter what happens between our two countries, that you're still welcome in March to come play Toronto.
Appreciate that. We love Canada. Honestly, every time we come up there, I'm like, a lot of bands don't do like only like Canada tours or whatever, but we just got to go up there for like 2 weeks and hit every city in Canada that we can, because Canada always turns up for us and we love it. So
there you go. Well, we can't wait to see you here, Alex. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it in this crazy, crazy time before an album drops. I hope you get some resting moments and that you can also just like kind of enjoy the cycle and, be proud of the fact that you guys are here with yet another strong album in such a short time, really. So that's really cool. Yeah. Thank you so much for your time, and I can't wait for the show in Toronto.
Yeah. Thank you for your time in the interview.
You are awesome for watching this video. Click right here to see more content like it and subscribe to the channel.